So let me drop a little bit of knowledge here, a little nugget, if you're open to receive it. And I'm gonna give you my own personal example of what I experienced this weekend and why I'm sharing it. Let's start by saying you are very powerful. You're more powerful than you realize. And I really think deep down inside, most of us don't want to accept the fact that we're insanely powerful and co-creators of our reality, because then we have to be responsible for the fact that things are not the way we want them. And we don't want that. We like to feel like we're victims. And that's okay. But let me explain something to you. There's this thing inside of you. It's called a reticular activating system. It's a really cool thing when used appropriately. It's always doing its job though. So with the reticular activating system, we're just going to call it the RAS for now. When it comes to the RAS, its entire job is to focus on, or help you to focus on, the things that you have perceived to be important. Now, good, bad, or indifferent, if you've made it important or focused enough energy on it, it's going to bring those things to your attention. So if you say, let's say this weekend, I heard of a theory called string theory. Never heard of string theory before. Now, after I heard of string theory, I saw movie after movie and ad and commercial and everything under the sun that mentioned string theory. It's not that the concept of string theory wasn't there before. It's just that I hadn't made it important. I hadn't even recognized it as a thing. So I probably just ignored the words had I heard them before in an abundance of ways. And then it's like, I made it important. And my RAS did what it was supposed to do. It made it important. Let me tell you the importance of this RAS and how it comes into play in your life. You being inundated with so much, your RAS is like, okay, let's focus on what's right? Let's focus on what's important. So I experienced a trauma when I was younger that made me feel like I was unworthy. So my RAS brought forth different experiences that fed into that energy. It's not that I didn't have experiences that proved otherwise. It's just my RAS was focusing on what I believed to be important. And what I believed to be important was that I wasn't worthy. So experience after experience after experience, it just made that trauma cut deeper and nestle real deep into my being. So I couldn't find ways out of all the self-love in the world. I couldn't get to it because I was struggling with self-worth on the other side, and those go hand in hand. So when you understand that the RAS is doing its thing and that we're co-creators of our reality, that also means that you have to be responsible for what you're co-creating. If your mind is only focused on the things that the RAS says is important, and we attract what we focus on, well, of course you're going to keep having the same experiences, and you're going to keep having the same experiences. And you can either choose to grow through those experiences, or you can accept that those experiences are going to be what they are. They're going to hurt you. They're going to continue to occur, and you can remain a victim. I mean, what do you have to lose if you really think about it? If you made the choice to say, I don't want this to be my experience anymore, and I'm going to try to focus on something different because I realized that was trauma, and that's not necessarily true. I know it sounds so simple. It does require repetitive thought shifts. And I say that because I understand that in my mind, it seems so simple. But we created these deeply rooted thought processes by repetitive actions, repetitive thoughts. So we can't help but to reprogram them through repetitive actions and repetitive thoughts. It takes time, but every little bit helps. And there are great tools to help you to do that, like affirmations, especially when they're played at night while you're sleeping, to help reprogram your subconscious mind. There are lots of little ways to do it. I can touch on them if you want me to. You just got to let me know. But understand this, your RAS is always doing its job. And the law of attraction is always at work. You are attracting what you focus on. The RAS and the law of attraction work hand in hand. What are you choosing to do differently? If you know or recognize that you want to make some changes, you have to change your thought processes. What are you doing for that? I know acknowledging it is the biggest problem. And when I say acknowledging, I'm just meaning like recognizing is the hardest part for a lot of us, because I didn't even realize that was running in the background. So for years, I recognized a pattern in me where I was doing certain things, but I didn't understand the why. And I really struggled with, but why am I doing this? And then it just hit me, and it was like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. Why didn't I see that before? So I'm not acting like it's a simple task, because it's not. Recognizing it is the hardest part. But if you recognize it, then you can start taking actions to amend it for yourself. So what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that knowledge? Are you going to be the victim, or are you going to be the victor? Because the biggest difference between the victim and the victor accepts the fact that this problem exists, but it decides, I'm going to challenge that problem, and I'm going to address it. I'm going to find a solution. I'm going to fix it. It seems like a lot of work for a lot of people, and it is a lot of work. I ain't gonna lie. Trying to remember all the time to make these changes or correct yourself when you start thinking it seems like a tedious job, but it's worth it in the end, number one. And number two, you're worth it. You're definitely worth it. And that's actually not my number two, because that's still part of number one. Number two, every little bitty step helps you get there. So you may have to correct yourself 100 times a day today. By the end of the week, that number is going to decrease to, 50, because it'll become a new habit. You have the power. Don't forget it.